You think the president is just talking up the markets here, or that there's some real hopes of a solid deal forming?
Look, I hope this is for real. I mean, the marketplace needs it. The world economy needs it. I can't think of a better piece of news for 2019 than that the U.S.-China trade war is beginning to tone down. That would be the very best thing that can happen to markets anywhere in the world. I hope it's true. It will have to be very conceptual because we'll be negotiating things that are in the future, behavior that really hasn't happened yet. So we'll have to have a lot of trust. That's why an agreement is going to be so difficult. But I hope we do make progress, and at least I hope we stay where we are and don't ratchet up anymore at a bare minimum.
Mr. Secretary, it's Scott. Happy New Year. It's nice to see you today.
Happy New Year.
If you were running Kellogg still, what would you be doing in light of this trade war? Would you be hunkering down? Would you be opening up the purse strings, so to speak, and rolling out CapEx, buying back your stock? What would you be doing?
Well, I think it's about being selective. So, yes, you'd probably cut down on CapEx where you don't believe you're going to get a return over the next 5 or 10 years, but you would be investing where you will get a return. I don't think any company has the luxury of standing still. You've got to continue to compete. You have to continue to move forward, but it's where you do that. And then there is the reordering of supply chains. And I think companies at this point have to start thinking about whether they move their supply chain out of China into lower cost countries, Vietnam, Southeast Asia. That's also a decision that I think every company in the world is looking at. So rebalancing the supply chain, investing where you feel comfortable, but there'll be areas in the world where companies believe that it's not the right time. And frankly, I think that Europe could be one of those places.
Do you think that the trade fight with China has hurt CEO confidence?
Absolutely. I think, confidence stems from certainty, from a sense that you understand where the environment is going. And what the trade war has done is added a tremendous amount of uncertainty. So should you invest now? Should you wait? Should you build a new plant or should you wait? And a lot of companies are deciding to wait. That is going to have an impact on the economy. So, and it's going to have an impact on both economies.
Here's what I can't tell, and I think investors are a little confused about, and we've gotten some mixed messages out of the administration on this front, Mr. Secretary. It's that, is this going to be a tick-by-tick list of China's going to buy more U.S.-made products, China's going to have some more protections for international investors, China's not going to require as much intellectual property theft? In other words, is this a real workable deal, or is the U.S. trying to go after something bigger and more difficult, like regime change, making China less of a trade competitor, waging some sort of technology war so that they get rid of the 2025 plan? And that's a much bigger, more difficult picture to understand how it's going to resolve itself.
I think that's a great question. And we have to realize that we're not just talking about the next 5 years. We're talking about the next century. How is China and the U.S., how are we going to coexist? So yes, I think a lot of this is trust, and it's about behavior in the future. There may be some things that we can negotiate in the short term, like soybean purchases or opening up the market a little bit more or dropping tariffs on automobiles, things that can help in the short term. But of course, the big matter is the long term. And I don't think that our objective should be to change China. That is a very hard, and history will suggest that it's almost impossible. I think our objective should be to coexist with China in a regime of rules where both sides abide to those rules. But if our goal is to change the structure of China, change the way the economy is structured, I think it's going to be almost an impossible task over the next 4 years or so. So being realistic about what we can get, trying to somehow regulate behavior in the future, and yes, have some more market opening in the short term. However, I doubt that that will lead to a reduction in the trade deficit. So the administration also needs to understand what it's pursuing. What is the strategy? Is it to lower the trade deficit, or is it to create an environment that is open to more fair trade, that is more conducive to fairness on both sides?
Broader economy question, Mr. Secretary. How does the consumer look? How does the consumer feel to you right now?
You know, it's, I would say, a bit hesitant. You know, on one hand, consumers are looking at their 401ks, and I'm sure they've received a bit of a shock over the last month. And then we're also seeing the beginnings of some inflation because of price increases due to the tariffs. So things with steel, things with aluminum, other products that have been slapped with tariffs will be going up at the beginning of the year. We haven't seen that yet because a lot of retailers have forward bought, knowing that tariffs will be coming up. So we'll see a lot more inflation hit the consumer in 2019. And I also think that just the psychological impact of having lost, 25% of your net worth will also hurt the consumer.
Finally, Mr. Secretary, Senator Elizabeth Warren officially launching her 2020 exploratory committee for president. Make a prediction. How's the trade issue going to play? Is President Trump going to have more friends on the Democratic side or the Republican side? It's really hard to figure out where the politics of all of this go.
Yeah, it's almost coming down to that trade is a sort of an anti-trade posture is a bipartisan issue, the way pro-trade was a bipartisan issue some time ago. But yes, and I think this could play a little bit against the president because he will have Democrats pushing him on China. Democrats pushing him on whether he's been tough enough on China. We've been talking about a conceptual deal about behavior in the future. How will Democrats feel about that deal? And the president can find himself in a position where he's being criticized by the opposition for not being tough enough. So I think that's something to look at in 2019. It'll be fascinating to watch. But yes, trade will be under the gun, regrettably, and immigration will be under the gun. And those are two things we need to continue growing our economy.